Hello and welcome to By Design with Dr. Erika. Today on our show, I am joined by Joanna. Joanna Walden is here. She is a conscious visionary, transformational coach, speaker, and author of the book, The Inside Hustle, a mystical misfits travel adventure into the unknown. That is a mouthful that I do not want to mess up.
I know.
I love it. Now, like many guests, Joanna had kind of a winding road. She started in the world of advertising, and that was just the beginning. And that's what we're going to talk about today with Joanna is her amazing journey to where she is today. So, Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
No
it's
problem.
so good to be here. And I love the singing intro. I don't think I've ever had that before. It's brilliant.
I'm glad to be your first.
I love it. It was so cute. Yeah, so as you mentioned, this is my book for anybody who wants to see what it is. With that big mouthful up the top there of my subtitle.
I love it. Title.
But yeah, basically, this book is the story of my personal journey of evolution. So this sort of follows me from when I sort of started my career in New York City. I was working in advertising on Madison Avenue. And, as much as that was incredibly glamorous and successful, and I was shooting with the hottest directors here, there, and everywhere, all around the world. And we were doing these incredible award-winning campaigns, and they were getting really famous and a lot of attention. And, there was a lot of the ticks that were happening there on multiple levels. But I still just felt there was something underneath it all that wasn't being ticked. I just felt this sort of real, there was a gap. It was like a little bit of a hole there. And as much as I was having this amazing life and, I was in my 20s in New York City. So,
right. You were like Sex in the City. Like
I basically was. That's exactly what I was. Yeah. And, it was so amazing and I wouldn't change it for the world, but I wasn't getting that sort of quite deep fulfillment that I was searching for. I wanted to feel like I was 100% living what I was meant here to do, and I just had this dream that I knew there was more possible for me. And I wanted to really be in such alignment with who I was and what I was meant to do on the planet. It was just this undercurrent of a driving force within me. And as much as the incredible life in New York City and the career and the whole thing, and I could have just kept going up, to be honest with you. I mean, I was great in it. It came naturally. I could have just kept climbing that corporate ladder, but I decided that I wanted to explore something else. I wanted to see what else was out there for me. And so I decided to leave New York. And I was also a bit burnt out. I mean, New York is 24/7. If anybody has ever worked there before, it takes all of you and spits you out. So, I was really looking to shift my work-life balance, from my experience in New York. And so I decided to move to London. And on the way to London, I did a ancient pilgrim path through the north of Spain called the Camino to Santiago. And that was the beginning of, that's over 900 Ks, which is over 500 or 600 miles, I think, through the north of Spain on foot, following an ancient pilgrim path. And
how did that come up? Like, I'm leaving New York, I'm going to go to London, but in between, I'm going to go on this journey. Like, what made you do that?
Well, I'd read this book by Shirley MacLaine, who's an author and actress. She's, she's an American, and she'd written this book called The Camino, and I'd read it, and she had these amazing epiphanies, like life-changing things. She basically got in touch with all sorts of amazing wisdom. She'd basically been shown the sort of inception of the universe. I mean, it was really, really lofty and up there, but she had said that this ancient pilgrim path follows the ley lines in the Milky Way. So the ley lines are the energetic signature of the stars that actually are mapped onto the earth. And she basically said that when you did this journey, you got zapped and realigned. So I was like, I want to go be zapped. I want to be realigned. And I want some answers. I want some answers. I mean, I talk about it now and it sounds as ridiculous as the way I'm saying it, but that's what I thought. I was like, I'm going to go and be zapped. I'm going to get some answers. It's going to be amazing. This is going to be like, I'm going to figure out what I'm here to do, what's going on. And you know what the funniest thing is, that it was completely the opposite to what I intended. And it turned into a booze cruise on legs. And I had an amazing time.
Well, you did get zapped.
I got zapped with the beautiful wine of Spain. I met some incredible characters along the way. And it was really funny because every time I was sort of trying to have a moment or a sort of encourage some kind of spiritual connection or experience, it was like the comedy of errors. I mean, something would come in, to make it not so at all, and it would be hilarious. So, for example, I was in a church and I just had the place to myself, and I was really just coming into a place of alignment and calm within, and I was just having a little meditation. Someone came in and then they sat down, and then their stomach was roaring and gurgling and making all these noises, and they started farting. And I mean, I couldn't even keep a straight face. I was sort of looking around and like, you're just getting the piece here. And it just, and I was like, oh, okay, well, and she just stayed there and kept going. And so I never got my beautiful sacred experience that I was looking for. So things like that would happen constantly the whole way.
Wow.
So this book is very much the comedy of errors of my personal journey of evolution. It is really kind of like sex, drugs, and spirituality, the modern guide to, personal development. It's very, very funny and irreverent, and it's kind of like warts and all. So I'm really, really authentic about it, and what I learned along the way. So
I've seen some of the reviews for the books, and I think authentic is probably the best word that I've seen out there in terms of some of the stories and things that are in there. So I've heard that it's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah, it's cool.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just gonna add that it's interesting because the book has its own experience with the reader. Like, even though they're reading about my journey, it helps them tap into parts of themselves that they may have sort of hidden or disassociated from or not wanted to look at. And the way that it works, there's this beautiful light poetry in between the chapters, and it helps sort of recalibrate any energy that's associated with any old patterns or ways of being. So people come back to me and they're like, Jo, I'm having these amazing experiences after reading your book. I feel more connected. I feel more into an alignment and flow. I'm experiencing more synchronicity in my reality. My business is like taking off, all this kind of stuff. It's kind of really interesting the way that the book is working and resonating with people to help them shift and change and realign, Yeah.
Is it your poetry?
Is it what?
Is it your poetry?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but it's from the higher perspective.
Okay.
So it's very much about this expanded consciousness. It's about, the deep wisdom of the heart. It's about the truth of who we really are. So yeah, it's
awesome.
but that's the way it works. So yeah, not just a book.
Cool. Now, you said you left New York, and again, you were on this pilgrimage that you thought was going to enlighten you, and you were heading to London, but you didn't find your purpose on the pilgrimage. So how did you figure out who you wanted to be after, this Sex in the City life that you had?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it wasn't easy. And I mean, I continued working in advertising, even though I was sort of trying desperately to open myself up to a world outside of that. I mean, I sort of managed to sidestep and shift into the production area of advertising and other, it's all in the same kind of world, but slightly different. And that still wasn't giving me what I wanted. I took on a completely different project. It was still sort of in the same vicinity in advertising world. And again, it didn't get me what I wanted. So on the side, I started looking into holistic therapy, and I was doing little courses, and, I was very much pursuing and researching another kind of way of life. And although I sort of trained as a holistic applied kinesiologist, and then realized that was all fascinating because it allowed me to understand the body and energy and healing and how it all worked, and on a totally different level of understanding than I had. But that wasn't really it either. And, to be honest with you, it wasn't like I got the lightning bolt. I sort of decided I just wasn't going to live that life of advertising anymore and in that world. And the only idea I had was to write this book about my journey of evolution, because I wanted to help other people not go down a certain rabbit holes that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, along my journey, I really figured out there was a lot of ways I was A, getting in my own way,
Mm-hmm.
and B, disempowering myself. And I really wanted to alert people to that so that they would learn from my experience. And so I sort of just set off to write the book, thinking, I really hope this is my ticket out of here. And it sort of morphed and evolved, you know, the original story sort of ebbed and changed. And then, you know, as I was working through the story and writing, you know, I was still on this experience. And then I started working with I had an idea to marry what I'd learned in advertising in a strategic way with personal transformation. And when I did that, I started to work on that alongside the book as well. And then here I am today, a personal transformation coach, sort of energy mentor, and I work with people to really shift and evolve out of one state of being into another. Because, you know, that affects our career, our relationships, our family, it's just our wealth, our health, all of it really stems from this relationship within, which is why I call the book The Inside Hustle. So yeah, it really, when you come into right relationship with yourself, you see it reflected in every area of your life, you know. So for me, it was like, well, this is the key. I'm just going to hone in and focus here. But it wasn't like I miraculously met someone who put me on the path and connected me with my, you know, my purpose. I really just had to trust and just put one step in front of the other to lead myself there. It's not like I ever was like, oh, this is it. Now I feel like I've written this book, I'm doing this work, and now I feel like, oh yes, this is it. But at the time when I was developing those, I still didn't realize that was it, you know. Now it feels much more solidified, and it feels right, and it feels like I would never want to do anything else. And then such incredibly deep fulfillment and just gratitude I had for when I hear feedback of people reading the book or the work that they do with me. Now I know that that's what I was searching for, and it feels like I've come home to that and within myself and what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a great point there, because a lot of times when you do venture out to sort of find your purpose, if you don't find it immediately, you think maybe I'm not meant to do this. Maybe I'm meant to go back to whatever it was I was doing, or maybe I don't have a purpose. How did you handle not giving up, or how did you not give up? Let's say that.
You know, I think there was definitely an element of self-trust that I was rebuilding within myself. And, you know, I had a lot of self-doubt as well. I was constantly looking outside of myself, constantly questioning. And when I realized the impact that was having on my state of being, and when I started to shift and change that and do other things, and also just live in this present moment and not try to get too far into the future or be living out old stuff from the past, then I really started to notice the different changes. But it's not like I had the answer that was like, yeah, this is what you're going to do. I mean, I sort of thought, okay, I'm just going to follow my heart, follow the calling of this wisdom within me. And as soon as I was bringing myself into more alignment within, I started getting a lot of ideas. The creativity started to amp up. I was connecting into my heart technology a lot more, which is a foundation of my work, which we can talk about in a little bit. But, you know, and then it all just started to fall into place. And I started to feel the clarity of what I was doing. And I think it's really about bringing yourself into inner alignment, because then the doubt sort of goes away, and then the trust goes away. But you've got to understand that it's not sometimes handed to you on a platter. It just doesn't come like that. You know, and you've got to get really comfortable in the unknown, not knowing how it's going to work out, but just still moving forward and not allowing that to completely derail you and stop you doing anything. You know, we get into that sort of like freeze mode where we're like, we would say a possum caught in the headlights here in New Zealand, but I know you guys don't have a deer caught in the headlights.
Deer caught in the headlights. Yeah.
So, you know, it's really just about getting into alignment with the self and really facilitating that trust, because that really can totally derail us, actually. Yeah, it's interesting the way that all of these things that we often do and play out in our in the way that we are in the world actually just has a huge impact on us. And when we start getting really conscious of that, then we can start to just make tiny little tweaks actually that get us back into alignment, back into flow. And then, as I said, it all starts to open up, and the crystal clearness of everything starts to come in.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not, for me at least. It didn't happen like, a lightning moment where it just all came to fruition. It is really, in this entrepreneurial journey, it's just really keeping going and backing yourself and trusting yourself and knowing that, even if you go slightly that direction or slightly that direction from where you are, you're going to get there,
Yeah.
Mhm.
That is so true. And I struggle with that as a new entrepreneur, right? And coming from corporate, you're so used to being either told what direction to go, or you're so used to having people critique you and tell you that's right or wrong. And now you're in this entrepreneurial space of like, do what you want to do and make it work. And you're like, no, I need some guidance. I need something. And you have
Yeah.
to your point, just really fall into who you are and
Yeah.
just trust what you do. And to your point, you'll get there eventually, even if it's a winding road. It may be
Mm.
bumpy, but you'll get
Yeah.
there. So,
And I think a lot of it also was, I was very much in my head.
mm,
And
me
I
too.
was, I'm like, I've got the t-shirt of over analyzing everything and, like being really, really critical. I mean, the meanest of the mean to myself. And when you're really caught up here, it's taking away from your connection here.
Mm,
And how technology has become the foundation of the work that I do with people. And when you start to get in touch with your heart, that heart technology isn't just warm fuzzies, by the way. It's not just like unconditional love and kindness and gratitude. It's much more than that. And when we start to tune into this heart, not only does it have a beautiful effect when we get into heart coherence on our physiology, which calms us down out of a state of stress and imbalance and whatever we might be feeling in fear of what we're doing as an entrepreneur. And it brings in that stillness and calm and trust automatically.
mm,
So I realized as the more I was moving and working with my heart area, that also is our access to our infinite wisdom. We know exactly what we should be doing and we know how to get there. It's all here. It's like a blueprint,
mhm.
it sits here within us. But half the time, this may be speaking to us, but it's being drowned out by when we're focused up here.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, if you start to spend a little bit of time getting in touch with this space, and that can be really simple, by the way. It doesn't need to be a complicated like meditation or process for like a half an hour in your day. It
That
could
was going
be,
to be my next question.
yeah, it could be a few minutes. And I tell you what, because the heart always knows. So it never has the self-doubt problems. It never has the lack of trust because it always trusts, it always knows. And it is the connection to your sort of divine purpose, your sort of the part of you that is directly linked to what you're here to do. I feel like if I'd connected into that a long, long time ago, then I wouldn't have been so like running around. But then I would never have this amazing book. So,
Right.
and I wouldn't have all these great stories to tell people. So, but I think really when we start getting out of here, down to here, tapping into this infinite wisdom and potential that's here, that's linking us to the quantum field, all the possibilities that we have available to us, helping us align within, that's fundamental really to the work I do and the work I do with clients, because it's like the science of change. It's all based in the heart technology. So I think that's really important. The best thing you could do for yourself as an entrepreneur is really start getting into the heart, because
Mm,
it just has an amazing effect on so many different areas for us, and it just radiates out from us as well. And then we have our own answers. We can tap into exactly what we need to, and we just know what to do. And that's
yeah.
key, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this, because there's one thing to say, okay, I'm meditating, I'm doing whatever I need to do to get into my heart today, right? And then 3 days, 4 days, a week later, it's gone. So how do you stay heart-centered consistently?
So in fact, as I was saying before, it doesn't need to take a huge amount of time, right?
Mhm.
And the beauty of it is that when we do it, it has a cumulative effect. And I do it multiple times a day, or when I'm feeling an emotional turmoil, or when I'm feeling in a state of stress, or when I'm feeling doubtful and I'm having a moment of like, oh, what am I doing? In this entrepreneurial life that I've got going on now. And, the quickest and easiest way to tune in is literally to focus your attention down into this area in the center of your chest, into your heart. That's the quickest way that we can tune in. And then if you add a hand to it, and you can do this, when you're walking down the street, you can do this in a meeting, you can do this in the bathroom at work, you can do this like anywhere. But as soon as you put that heart there, you are even more emphasizing the energy to be coming out of here. And our hand is connected physically to our heart, actually. So that amplifies it. But when we get into coherence, it's about not only drawing and focusing the attention in this area, but we slow down the breath and we breathe, twice or three times in and out, more slowly than we usually would, our natural breath, because that calms down the nervous system, takes us out of fight or flight.
Right.
And then what you do to get yourself into coherence is you foster uplifting feelings and emotions in a space. I mean, you can think about a little fluffy duckling and that's going to do it. You can think about someone you love. You can think about your favorite beach. You can think about an amazing memory with someone. That's fostering these beautiful, uplifting feelings of love, gratitude, kindness, compassion. All of those are elevating frequencies. And that brings us, when we do that breathing and just thinking and fostering and visualizing those thoughts, that brings us into this coherent state, which filters out into our physiology and actually increases the magnetic field of our self and our heart. So we're in alignment and we're accessing the wisdom that's going to come in from the quantum field. We're connecting with opportunities and infinite potential. And that's the quickest way you can do it. It doesn't have to be super long, but it is a thing about consistency. If you don't do any of it and you just don't bother, then you're not going to be able to get into coherence. But it is something that you can just do at any time of the day. And you could do a little quick 3-minute version. And I mean, who doesn't have 3 minutes in the day? Yeah. But if you can do it, I mean, I really, really love starting my day off with that and marrying in my intentions for the day, whatever practice I think you have going, even if you're just before your workout, or just before whatever, a few minutes just centering in and breathing and connecting with your heart and then fostering some uplifting emotions really sets you into a beautiful start to the day. So, yeah. But when you do it more, it does have this amazing cumulative effect. And then you start seeing sort of miraculous things start happening, and suddenly you're really bringing in, you get into this, instead of like having to create or having to manifest something, it just brings in, because we're in alignment, it brings things in to meet us. So we're in this incredible state of receptivity. And that just brings everything we need to us. And when we get ourselves out of the way, bringing ourselves here, and we just practice connecting in with ourselves and our heart every day. But even if you're driving in the car on the way to work, you can just think about your heart. You can think about beautiful, loving things, you've got your hands in the wheel. You can still do it. You can do it anywhere. And there really isn't any reason why we shouldn't. It's just actually having the awareness, taking the time to do it.
Right.
So, and it just, I mean, I think if you experiment with it, then you'll really understand, because then you can start using it for alchemical and purification processes. You can use it for visioning. You can use it for aligning with potentials that you want to bring in. You can use it for so many things. That's why it's sort of like, it's not just about warm fuzzies. It's really this amazing technology. And it's not launched yet. I'm still recording my 6-part series on heart technology, which is kind of like Heart Technology 101. Okay. To help people understand more about it, which talks about the way the heart communicates, which is very different. And so that we're aware and we're on the lookout for that kind of stuff, and I think it's very fundamental for me now. And I wouldn't be without it on a daily basis, because it really is just so effective in everything we want to do, and especially being an entrepreneur, Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to have to start to incorporate that. I do meditations, but I breathe. This is my own little thing.
Yeah.
I breathe in like the affirmations or like the words that I want in my life. So I'll breathe in, belief or confidence or acceptance, and I'll breathe out fear and self-doubt and imposter syndrome. But now I'm going to add my hand here to even bring it in a little bit more. So
yeah, I mean, it's honestly, there's just so much. I mean, I could go on all day about it, really. It's it's quite amazing. But I love that you're breathing those words in, because it's the same. You can breathe in the words love, appreciation, kindness, gratitude. You can, that's the same as fostering those emotions, because you start feeling it within you when you're doing that. And you know what? All of this stuff is being so backed up with science right now as well. And it's funny because I'd started using all of these techniques, and then I didn't really know why it was so effective and why it was working. And then now, there's a lot of research out there that is actually telling me why it's working, which is so cool. Because it helps me sort of explain it a bit more, because I didn't really know how to explain it before, But I think I think I was very much out of my heart at the beginning of my journey. Even though I was sort of following my heart, I wasn't necessarily in coherence or connecting to it in a way. I might have been sort of like, just following it, I guess, but not really, really super connected to it. And I think my heart was often quite closed, not super, super open. And that makes all the difference, definitely does. So I would encourage everyone to, especially if they're feeling a bit lost or unsure or whatever, just start connecting and just honestly try it for a week and see how you feel. I'm guaranteeing you will feel quite a significant difference in your state of being, if you just did like at least 5 minutes in the morning or something every day. Yeah.
Okay, Joanna just challenged you guys. 5 minutes a day. Heart technology, get into your heart.
Yes.
Tell us how it goes.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting because it's just, it lowers blood pressure, it improves the nervous system, it balances hormones, it improves brain function. It's not just like airy fairy, like get into your heart. It's really not. So
see, now I'm gonna have to go find these articles, Joanna, because now you're talking my language, like neurotransmitters, heart, all that kind of stuff. I have to go find these.
And I think because when we do that more, it's a cumulative effect, because I think we're creating those neural pathways. We're reprogramming ourselves, and we're doing it often. So we're reprogramming more positive, elevated emotions and frequencies. So that when we're in those states, we can't be in the sort of lost, stressed out, anxious. Like it literally, we have to change out of that, because we can't be both at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are literally entraining ourselves by doing it, and which makes all the sense with the latest neuroscience and all that good stuff, So yeah, I'm like all about it. I mean, honestly, I think it's like the heart technology is the way of the future in my mind.
I'm gonna go look that up now.
Yeah, well, if you look heart technology, you probably won't find it, apart from me talking about it. But it is also called Heart Coherence with the Institute of Heart Math. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, all those guys talk about heart coherence, and they've been doing their own studies as well, which is amazing, because it's helping me back up what I'm doing.
I used to work in the neuroscience space, so that's why it's very intriguing to me. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something interesting earlier. You said that you were able to combine your background in advertising and personal development in what you do now. How is that possible?
I never thought it was possible, to be totally honest with you. I honestly didn't. And I never would have thought that my career in advertising inspired what I'm doing now. But basically what happened was, when I was working in advertising, I was working at an agency, and they had a signature tool, right? So their signature strategic tool of how they would work with clients was called disruption. And we would do these disruption days where we would do all these different exercises, basically to disrupt a client or a brand out of the way that they were currently being perceived and presented in the market, to able to propel them into, new market, new positioning, new. And I suddenly was thinking about it one day, because I really loved that idea. It was always really exciting to me. And I was like, what if I could do that on someone's personal, state of being? What if I could do that on someone's energy signature? What if I could do that on the old version of them into the new version of them? And I set about investigating it. So I worked with some people in an experimental fashion, and I started to do these exercises with people to disrupt them out of their old way And then, yeah, and so that's how I was inspired to, and so I'm literally using my sort of more personal development techniques, all of the stuff I learned over the years or experimented with or studied, and using different forms of it, tweaking and changing it to help get people out of it. And create, when you want to become someone new, you got to leave the old behind, really. And so it's really helping people do that. And so that's how that came about, which I kind of love that it was inspired by my old world. I never would have thought possible.
Right. That's always the thing. When people leave their jobs or their skill set and they're like, I don't have any skills to use now in this new space. So the fact that you were able to take that and mesh the two is amazing.
And that was, it was sort of the idea. It was the inspiration it gave me. I wasn't using specific advertising tools, although that's really handy in my work for self-promotion and knowing how to get myself out there in marketing. So it's absolutely, it's very helpful. And I think even if you kind of think that you're not going to be able to use the skills in your current job, you absolutely are. In some way, shape, or form, you are going to be using things that you've learned along the way. You're not just going to be starting from scratch. You may be learning a ton of new stuff, but you're building on what you've already got. And so that's really important, is to honor those gifts and experience that we do have, knowing that we're just going to expand from there, and just reframing it with our perception and perspective of what's going on, because that really opens it up for us, rather than being like, oh, I'm starting from scratch again.
Starting over. This sucks.
Exactly.
So now, who do you work with? Because you're talking about your clients. Do you work with primarily women? Is it men and women? What's kind of your ideal client population?
Yeah, I work with men and women. I just work with anybody who, a lot of people come to me and they know that there's stuff that they probably want to move on from. They know that there's these old things that they do that they kind of don't know how to drop and move on to the next. They know they want to become different in some kind of way, shape, or form. They just don't know how. And I take people through the process of transformation, or process of change, or however you want to refer to it. And, people who are feeling lost or stuck or broken, or, feeling all over the place, or feeling like they're not in alignment with themselves, feeling like disconnected from themselves and the world around them, or people who haven't sort of been able to figure out sort of what their purpose is. I guess you could call it that, or people who just feel like they're getting really challenged in their reality all the time, and they are just constantly feeling like they're challenging, and they're just like treading water almost. So sometimes it's about unpicking some of those old programming and limitations that are contributing to that, because we basically, with what we're experiencing in the world, it's based on what we currently are. We get what we are. As much as we might want this and that, it's about our current state of being. So if there's a disconnection between kind of what we want to be and what we're actually inhabiting inside this body and this energy signature, then there's going to be issues. And sometimes we get the push-pull energy, I call it. So, and it's things within us that are kind of fighting against each other. Sometimes we're conscious of it, sometimes we're not, but either way, we want to work through that stuff and free it up a little bit so that we can transform into the new. So I work with a range of different clients and ages, and all sorts of different types of people, but generally people are looking for change, I guess, is the key. The key thing with all that.
Gotcha. Nice. So now I'm sure you have a lot of things on your plate and a lot of things going on, especially as an entrepreneur. There's always stuff, advertising, like you say, marketing, clients, all that kind of stuff. How do you sort of keep it all together? And
I mean, I definitely feel like the daily practice of being connected into my heart and doing a little meditation and all of that kind of stuff is definitely key. And then, I think just like everyone, I look after myself with food and water and, exercise, and just the little things like that really make a difference. I just know that about myself now at this stage of my life. Makes a big impact. But, I think just giving myself time for me is really the biggest thing. It really keeps me in alignment, keeps me connected with myself, I do a lot of writing, obviously being a writer.
Right.
I do a bit of journaling. I have a conscious way of life, really. I'm very conscious and aware in how I go about my daily life. And, when we're unconscious, we're sort of on autopilot, but the more we can bring conscious awareness into the way we're living, and then the way where our thoughts are, where our feelings are, where our emotions are, all that stuff. And, then making little tiny tweaks as we go to sort of recalibrate ourselves, It's not just like one thing that's like completely changes everything. I think it's really just all the little things that we do on a daily basis that add up.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of those things are really important to me,
Yeah. I like
Yeah.
that. Let me ask you a question that just popped into my head because,
Mm.
I think about entrepreneurs that are just starting out and entrepreneurs that have been doing it for a while. And you talked about making time for yourself, and kind of having that time, downtime, or whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. And I
Yeah.
feel like, I wonder, were you able to do that early on and not feel like you are missing out on things that need to get done? Like as a new entrepreneur, you're like, I have to do everything myself. So I have to get this done. I have to go team no sleep. Like,
And that is very a mind-based way of looking at it, right?
okay.
And that's when we're in the kind of busy mind, and
Mhm.
it's all about go, 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 do, do, do. You have to do this. But when you start to live a conscious life in a different way, it's like 80% energy, 20% action. It's not the do, do, do. And actually, when we're in the pattern of do, 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 got to do, 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 that actually is hugely draining on our energy,
Uh-huh.
you know. And as the thing is, when we start to really connect in with our heart technology and ourself, connect in with ourself, then when we spend that time on ourself and connecting in and visualizing and fostering these beautiful feelings, that means that all of the stuff that we need comes in automatically, and we're not chasing, chasing, chasing in the do, so
Mhm.
that it's actually a mind flip that you need to be able to understand, because you can be chasing your tail and running around and thinking your to-do list is like a gazillion things long, but that's slightly out of alignment in the way that we can truly work in a much more effective way on an energetic level with ourselves, and I know that it can be hard for some people to fathom. But really, when I changed the way I was living from agency world, corporate career,
Mhm.
mind based, do, to do list, constantly moving, not time for anything else. And when I really just changed completely the way I operated, it's about relearning a different way to live, essentially. And that is not easy for people because we've been conditioned
Right.
into this other way of being. And it's not any fault of our own. Like, honestly, it's society, the way we grew up, the careers we've been in, the education, family, all of it is adding up to the way that, we think that we should live to get the most productivity. But
Mhm.
it's actually the truth of it, it's actually not that at all. And we have much more energy, and we have the right things that we can do, and we get into alignment, and the opportunities come in rather than us having to chase and expend so much energy in getting what we want if we
Hmm.
go about it in a different way. But I know it's a lot for some people to even fathom, especially in
Yeah.
an entrepreneurial way. But honestly, it's, for me, that was a huge shift, and it is really the way that's produced more results for me. And it's almost like it shortcuts all of the steps that you would have to go. Maybe you did it 10 steps with one step in the old way versus new way, if that makes sense. Like,
Okay.
just the way you're just more efficient. And so you're landing an opportunity that is worth, 10 of the things you were doing in the
Right.
old way of working. It's just the way it works. It's quite miraculous, and it's quite interesting to me. I find it fascinating.
Huh.
But, I think that's because you're so deeply connected to your own inner wisdom, which
Mhm.
knows what's going on, which knows the exact, puts you in the right place at the right time because you're following this, not this.
Hmm.
It's really fascinating though, because it's not, as that busy world and that way of working for me. never got me to where I wanted. It had me running around in circles more than anything.
So this is going to be a weird question. So what's a typical day for you then? Like what do you do in the day?
So I have a morning practice
Okay.
where I connect in with a hun. I do an activating meditation, and I'm visualizing and doing my intentions and things like that, and usually throwing gratitude in there. And I do that pretty much every day. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, unless like I'm away or something, I'll do it at a different time of the day, but usually it's in the morning. And I really respond. I'm in the present, so I'm responding to what is. And I spend a little bit of energy on a ton of different things, but no one day is like the next. I mean, it's very, very different day to day. And I follow the energy. So I follow intuitively where I should be spending my time,
Mm-hmm.
because that will heed the most results for me in that moment. And a lot of it sometimes is knowing when I need to take some time out and I need to go for a walk in nature for like an hour or two, instead of being at the computer and trying to bang out this presentation that's due tomorrow. And then when I know that it's time to come back, then I bang it out in a quarter of the time. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's really about understanding myself and the way I operating in this world on such a deep level that I'm knowing when to pull back. And it's good. I've needed some practice in getting comfortable with this, by the way. It is not natural to me. I've really had to, as I said, relearn how to live.
Uh-huh.
But now I know what to follow, what to not, what comes up in the moment, and I'm just sort of, it's a very sort of organic nature in the way that I work now. Yeah, it's very, very different. And yes, I've got a to-do list. Yes, I've got all these things that are happening, but they do happen. But when I've got my very fixated timeline or expectation on anything or whatever, it ends up being stressful. And, so I've let go of a lot of that stuff. And I allow it to be what it is. And when I do that, everything seems to work out miraculously in the way that it should.
Gotcha.
But that requires pretty much a state of deep trust and faith in the self.
Right.
And knowing I would never lead myself astray. And knowing, yes, this feels good to spend the energy here today. Oh, now it feels really good to focus on podcasts tomorrow. Now it feels really good to focus on writing. Oh, now it feels good to like blow open with some inspiration about what I want to do, what I want to open up for the next 5 years, all that kind of stuff. So I very, very, no 2 days are the same. That's for sure.
I love hearing everybody's different processes, right? Because everybody is different. And some people are very stringent and can stick to like, I blocked this day and this many hours for that. And some people are very flowy like you. And I kind of go in between both. And I think it
Yeah,
comes down to like knowing yourself, knowing your
right.
energy levels, knowing what drains you and what fuels you,
That's
and
exactly
making the
right.
best. Yeah.
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 Because when you force it, when you're in a state of feeling totally wiped out and drained, it's just the way the quality of the work that comes out of it isn't great.
Mm-hmm.
You usually have to go back and redo it anyway. It just doesn't really make sense. But we, because we've got this idea in our mind that it has to be done by then and we should be spending our time doing that, or because it's, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we can't go and, meditate for half an hour. We need to be, when you put those rules around yourself, I found that it actually doesn't really work for me. But I do like a bit of structure, I do have certain ways I go about it, I don't sort of lie around every morning. I sort of get up and get going, even though I'm working for myself, even though I don't have an office to go to, like things like that. Structurally, I make time for exercise during the day, usually at the end or the very beginning, or, but the way that the work comes in, and I just do it based on, what sort of comes up as a priority and where my energy feels like it's good for. But I've had to take days out when it's not, I've had to take a little time out for myself and just be okay with not doing anything,
Right.
which was not second nature. I had to sort of train myself to be cool with that.
Exactly. And it takes work. It takes work to get there, but you'll thank yourself once it's over and you'll come back so much more clear and ready to get things done. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And I think also, sometimes if you don't know what to do and you're in that state of confusion, just do something,
Mhm.
because when you just start doing something and just not get too caught up in about whether that's right or wrong, or on point or not. But if you just do something that starts to just shift the energy out of that space of like, oh, I don't know what to do, just start with the little thing, or start with something to send to yourself, or start with whatever is the most fun thing on your to-do list, so that you can kind of change the energy, how you're feeling, if you're feeling a bit challenged. So I just utilize all those different kinds of practices and navigating my work life and what I'm doing.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us and kind of giving us a sneak peek into your day. I knew that was like, I was not expecting to ask that question. It just kind of popped up in my head.
Oh my God, no, I think it's great. It's definitely very, very different to my old corporate life. So
yeah. Well, speaking of different and not doing things the same, we have come to the point in our show where we are wrapping up, which means it's time for the Fab Four.
Okay.
Are you okay? Are you game, Joanna?
Me.
Okay. It's just 4 simple questions and statements. First thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
What's the strangest food you've eaten?
Strangest food? Well, there were definitely some unnameable things in China. I'm not really sure what they were, to be honest. I don't know. Yeah, couldn't even name them. Probably.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things that I definitely wasn't sure what it was.
I think that's strange enough.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's the strangest of the strange.
Oh, gosh.
I can't identify this. Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. Well, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Oh, if I had a superpower, gosh, I always sort of like oscillate with this question. There's so many amazing superpowers, but I think I would, if I could be absolutely tuned into my heart technology 24/7, I'm aiming towards that. I think that would be really cool, because that has, incredible possibilities in the quantum field and everything, and just to help other people, and so yeah.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. If you had to pick a song to sort of describe your life or represent your life, what would it be?
Probably John Lennon, Give Peace a Chance.
Oh, I like that.
I mean, I think I've tortured myself so much of my life and gotten my own way, and just, I mean, it's all brought me to who I really was, but it's sort of like, I think, that it could have, it's just one of those things that it's like, it's been full on, and give peace a chance, just like be at peace with yourself, Joe. Be at peace with yourself.
I like it. That's going to make a great addition to the list.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you. All right. And the last one, Joanna, is finish the statement. I am
feeling an incredible inspiration from this conversation right now. I'm so grateful and thankful for you having me on the show.
Thank you for being here. You've been amazing. You've been amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yay. Go ahead.
I feel really full, I feel really like, my heart feels full, and I feel inspired, and I feel energy, and so I'm feeling all of those things.
I love when my guests feel full. It makes me feel happy. Yes. Well, you have been an amazing guest today. If people want to stay connected, follow you, work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at my website, which is literally joannawalden.com. And that has kind of links to everything. But on Instagram and my Facebook business page, it's at I am Joanna Walden. So you can find me there. My book is on Amazon, and also all sorts of Barnes & Noble, all the platforms really, as an ebook and a paperback. I just finished recording the audiobook, so that's going to be up soon, but not quite out in the market yet. And my courses and all of my personal transformation work and all that good stuff is all on my website. So get in touch, keep in contact, and it's been so amazing to share and have this platform to do so. So I really appreciate you for that.
No problem. And don't worry, guys, as you know, all the details about social media, links, Amazon, it'll all be in the show notes. So if you missed it, we got you. It's cool. But again, thank you, Joanna. Thank you guys out there listening for joining. We love having you. As always, if you haven't liked, subscribe, share, do so on iTunes, Apple. Well, that is the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We're everywhere. So be sure to go follow us there. And if you haven't followed me or tapped into me, you can find me, drerikabydesign.com. Thanks so much for joining, guys. Till next
Thank
time.
you.
Bye.